Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to check out another of these Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series figures. This is the second to last of the entire line. We have the Alberta Ceratops, and this is actually a very interesting figure to me because initially when I had seen all of the different prototypes and everything, I feel like this was the one figure that I was probably the least excited about, not because of the fact that it is an Alberta Ceratops, because that is incredible. We don't have any Alberta Ceratops figures that I personally know of, but just the paint scheme. I wasn't initially all that, thrilled with it. I didn't think it looked as great as some of the others, but having it here in hand and actually looking at it, I feel actually quite different about it. I'm really, really intrigued to see this out of the packaging because I think here in package it looks incredibly nice and far better than I expected it to be. So this is definitely something that I'm very excited about, is just getting this out of the packaging and taking a look at it. Here on the front of the box, though, you can see again that we have this little slip cover over here to the side that does say the Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series, as well as the Alberta Ceratops species name right there. And then on the back, as per usual, we have the checklist of the different figures from Wave 3, which we now have officially reviewed all of except for the Taurosaurus, which would be the next review that I would have up of these guys. And then over here we have again the Alberta Ceratops, as well as a sneak peek at the art card, the collectible card, and then letting us know that the artwork is done by Raul Ramos, who is one of the top paleo artists out there right now. And then we also have information on the Alberta Ceratops itself. So let's pop this out of the box and take a look at this fantastic figure. So then we've got ourselves the tail assembly instructions, and I've preached this in most of the reviews of the Ceratopsian series, and as the series has gone on, I've realized just how important it really is to preach this to you guys, and that is the fact that you should definitely pay attention to this, because it honestly can be such a task at times to get these tails on, because they need to be warmed up. Like, I've forced some of them on stupidly at times, and it's so hard to do that, and it really risks breaking the figure. But specifically for this Alberta Ceratops, I felt like I was in quite the battle trying to get this tail on. Even heating it up, it was still a little bit tricky to get the tail on because the tail's a bit shorter than some of the others have been, so definitely one that you really want to heat the tail up to apply it onto the figure. But then we have the art card of the Alberta Ceratops, and as per usual, Raul Ramos really delivers when it comes to majestic beauty here, depicting the Alberta Ceratops walking along, and really gave us some fantastic artwork, not only on this card, but throughout the entire series. But that specifically right there is such a gorgeous image. And then here on the back, again, we have the Beasts of the Mesozoic logo, the Alberta Ceratops species name, as well as some information on the species. Again, the art by Raul Ramos, as well as the Creative Beast logo. And then we also have some really cool dinosaur toy photography right there of the Alberta Ceratops. Awesome work on the cards as always. And then we've got ourselves another massive beast of a Ceratopsian here with the Alberta Ceratops, and I can definitely say with complete confidence that this one here might be the sleeper hit of the series, because this is so incredibly appealing looking out of the box, put together. It is just way nicer than I expected it to be, and now I'm almost slapping myself wondering why I didn't think it would be all that nice initially. And I am just beyond over the moon excited about it now, having it out of the packaging, taking a look at just how nice it is, and again, knowing the fact that it is a species of Ceratopsian I do not have in my collection. So entering a brand new species into my collection right here with this Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series, Alberta Ceratops, is incredibly exciting if you ask me. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at this right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Alberta Ceratops, you can see that as per usual, it is just overloaded to the max with incredible sculpt and paintwork. But if we get a nice look at the fine detailing, you can see that as per usual also, we have some really beautiful texturing and scale detail to the face. Quite a few different varying sizes of scales as you move along the face of our Ceratopsian. You also have the nostrils present right here. Some more incredible scale detail here on the lower jaw, and you can again see just how different the scale detail looks depending on the area of the Ceratopsian. Like, you have some really nice looking scale detail here, but even the scale detail up here differentiates from there. You can also see some larger scales back here. So again, the fine detail of the figure is pretty much off the charts, as it always is. You can see some super nice looking creases and wrinkling there around the eye in the eye socket area. The eye itself is painted with a nice yellow, given a black pupil, as well as a really nice gloss coat, as always. The beak is painted with a nice yellowish coloration, and they've taken some darker browns and kind of dry brushed over the beak to make the detail pop, but also kind of giving the beak a nice kind of dirty appearance, which is something that I feel like is fairly realistic. Oh boy, that mouth is really, really stiff right now. Definitely got to loosen that up at some point. But you can see that we have a purplish tone of color for the inside of the mouth. You can see the teeth right there. They are present. And the tongue is like way up there. Look, you can see the tongue is way up in the top of the mouth. Again, I don't know if I can get that. No, I absolutely cannot get that with my fingers. So I'm going to have to take something and put it in there to pull the tongue down at some point so that we can get the mouth in order in there. But you can again see a nice gloss coat added in there, nice realism to the figure, beautiful tone of coloration for the inside of the mouth as well, very nice realistic tone. You can see the teeth on the upper jaw back there hiding behind that tongue that is just rampaging all over the upper part of the mouth in there, but again, very nice looking from what we can see. Being a ceratopsian, the mouths are fairly small, so you can't really get in the mouth too far to really see how nice the detailing is. As far as the coloration here on the face, we have a nice off-white for the lower jaw. We have some beautiful variations of browns here running along the face. You also have a nice black that runs along the upper part of the snout up into the eye socket. Some nice areas of blue, as well as a pretty bright white kind of splotching in a few different areas. And even a little hint of like a reddish brown up here. You can also see we have yellowish tones for the horns and everything of our ceratopsian, and again dry brushed over as it transitions to a black tip, but it's dry brushed nicely in this area with the black to highlight the detail of the horns right there on our Albertaceratops, and you can again see that the detailing starts to get a little bit bigger as far as the scale detail goes the further up into the frill we get. You can also see that we have that same yellowish tone of color that kind of outlines the outer edge of the frill. It is the same color that we have for the horns, but it also kind of runs along the frill here and outlines and highlights the area of the frill right there. You also see some variations of browns, kind of very subtle, hiding within the blacks and stuff as we move up into the frill. You can see some nice light kind of like reds and some variations of darker reds, some yellows and whites and stuff up here in the frill. You can also see some of those kind of scoots running along the inside of the frill are painted nicely with the kind of like an off-white mixed with some light hints of pinks in there, so some pretty cool coloration right there. You also can see a nice dark wash has been applied right there on the top of the head here with the horns, and again the horns up here on the top of the frill are very nicely painted similarly to the horns on the upper part of the eyebrow area here for the Albertaceratops. Again, really nice looking scale detail throughout the course of the figure. Very flashy, but very naturalistic look for the face, I think, of this figure. As you move down here into the neck, you can again see the throat kind of elaborated nicely here on the underside with a lot of wrinkling and stuff as well. You can see some more variation of color as we transition from kind of like a white dry brushing over top of a reddish wash to more of a yellow dry brushing over top of a, I guess it's kind of a reddish wash too. So again, some more nice color variation. You can see a few splotches of blue coming in here, as well as some more wrinkling and tensing in the neck. Nice brown dry brushing over the black here, so it really highlights the scale detail moving up into the back of the neck. You see some more kind of off-white dry brushing over some red splotches, as well as some white spots here and there. The back of the frill also sports a really nice reddish wash that has been applied within that area, really making every ounce of scale detail pop back there on the back of the frill. Before transitioning to the black and running along the spinal column, we have some more of those scoots that run along the spinal column. I like how not all of them are painted, though. I like how some of them have this kind of reddish tone of color, but you can pick up on like some small ones and stuff here and there that have the blackish tone of color, so it like kind of transitions back and forth. That's pretty cool as far as the way that has been painted. You can also see that we have like a blue dry brushing over this area. It's a really beautiful looking blue. Really makes that detail right there pop in a very nice, very flashy way. And then you can see more of those reds kind of transitioning back and forth here, as well as some more of those off-whites showing up here before transitioning to a mostly off-white rear of our ceratopsian. We have some reddish spots and stuff, and even within the reddish spots, you can even see some areas of the white creeping through, some more blue and white spots down here. As we transition down, we have another area of almost like a chocolate brown with the black kind of striping down through it before leading to a blue stomach and then leading back down to a nice off-white with a pinkish wash underneath. So tons of color as always. You can see some nice creasing here at the joint of the leg, as well as some muscle definition in the front leg. Again, some variations of like reddish browns as you move down the course of the leg before transitioning to a black for the lower part of the leg, leading down into the ankle and down into the foot. Really nicely sculpted out foot. The toes are beautifully sculpted out right there, really nice as per usual with these figures. And you can see some nicely painted nails right there, very nicely painted with kind of a yellowish tone and then maybe like some slight pinkish dry brushing, so giving some color variation even to the nails, which is absolutely awesome. And then moving back up here, you can pick out the hip bone a little bit right there. Moving down into the thigh, the muscle definition is nicely elaborated and present there, and you can also see some nice kind of wrinkling and hanging skin sort of right there in the joint of the knee. More color variation here with some blacks, and we have reds and whites and everything running down the course of the thigh down into the shin area. And you can see that we have a nice, very dark brownish wash that is applied to the reddish area of the shin, as well as a nice black striping that only gets about 2 stripes in before disappearing. And then you can see that we basically just have the mixture of browns and reds running down the course of the shin into the ankle and then down into the foot. And the foot has some absolutely phenomenal looking scale detail, which really pops now with that dark wash that they've applied to it. The nails are painted the same way that the front leg was, but man, that scale detail pops so nicely in that foot with that nice dark wash. And then we move back up toward the tail. You can see some more wrinkles as well as some more light hints of some blues. And you can see that up here on the back, we have a pretty bright red that runs along the spinal column up here with a few more of those splotches of the blacks and kind of like some bluish dry brushing. And then we also have that same kind of reddish brown coloration for the scoots running along the back of the spinal column of our Ceratopsian before leading out here into kind of a striping with a reddish brown. And then we transition here to a dark brown, a very dark brown, as well as some dark grays before we end the tip of the tail there. Very nice curve in the tail as well, and some more really nice scale detail there. You can also see the underside sports kind of actually a green right here, which transitions from the blue to a nice green. Very cool, very subtle application of the paint. And again, the Beasts of the Mesozoic figures are always incredible because there's so much color variation. Like, you really have to examine the figure to pick up on all of the different colors that are included. It's really crazy. And you can see how nice the detailing here of the underside pops with that nice pinkish wash that has been applied. It looks beautiful throughout the course of the underside of the Ceratopsian. A nice big healthy looking belly on our figure as well. And you can see this side also looks just as nice and just as precise paintwork and sculpt work wise as what we had seen on the initial side. Just an overall gorgeous looking head sculpt for an Albertaceratops as you move along the figure. Of course, you're not really going to see too much difference over here in comparison to what we had seen on the previous side. It's pretty much going to look the same being an articulated figure. There usually isn't any kind of drastic difference because it's not positioned in any certain way more so than the other side. But you can see that all of the paintwork looks incredible over here, just like it did on the initial side. Beautiful wash again down in the rear foot. I love this bluish tone here in the lower part of the stomach. Such a really nice flashy addition to the figure. And again, you lead out the length of the tail. So incredible work on the part of the Beast of the Mesozoic as always. This Ceratopsian is another of the incredible long list of Ceratopsians in this series, but I love this one in particular because it's a species I did not have in my collection prior, so I am beyond excited to finally have an Albertaceratops in my collection, especially one as gorgeous as this. So as far as articulation goes on our Albertaceratops, of course we do have the articulated jaw, which we have already mentioned. It is very stiff. A lot of the joints will probably be pretty stiff throughout the course of this figure, something that I'll have to loosen up as time goes on, or if I use some warm water or a hair dryer, it'll definitely loosen those joints up. But you can see again that the jaw does articulate, and we also have the articulation of the tongue actually on the inside of the mouth, which is an area I often miss. And then you have articulation in the neck, which can cause the head to turn left, right, go up, really far up actually, or down. And there's two different areas. You have an area right here and right here, which allows that super nice and very smooth articulation through the course of the neck region. Really, again, a stop-motion dream are these figures. And then you have articulation here at the base of the front leg. You also have articulation in the elbow. This is always an area that's so stiff, so we can get it to articulate a little bit, but it would obviously articulate more if I loosened it up. We also have articulation in the wrist area of our Albertaceratops, can swivel completely, as this area here can as well, so you can really, again, articulate those areas to the max, but it can also articulate up and down and stuff, so some nice articulation there. You have articulation in the midsection, so you can kind of swivel it, and then turn your ceratopsian a little bit left and right, not too far, but definitely can articulate. We have articulation in the hip, forward and back. We also have articulation in the knee. That wasn't too bad. I thought that was going to be a little stiffer, but you can definitely see we have some nice articulation there. It's a little stiff, but not too bad. And then you have two areas as you lead down the leg down into the ankle. You have an area right here, both of which can swivel and move forward and back, but they're definitely going to be stiff. You can see the lower part definitely moves nicely as well as can swivel, but this area here as well is always just a little bit stiff for me. And then we have the tail articulation, which can go sideways, up, down, all over the place. Really got to be careful with that tail. If I pop that off, I'll be very sad, because getting that on there was incredibly complicated. Being a shorter tail, it was definitely a bit of a task to get the tail on this one. But as far as a size goes, for a length, you are looking at about 14 inches, maybe actually closing in on about 14¼ inches, or around 36 centimeters for a length. So a very, very big figure for sure. And then for a height, just shy of 7 inches, or around the 17½ centimeter mark. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line in comparison to our beasts of the Mesozoic Alberta Ceratops, and you can easily tell that this is a very sizable figure, as all of Wave 3, they're all sizable figures, but especially with the Alberta Ceratops giving the Papo Rex a death glare here and about to stab him right through the face, because he looks very unhappy with him and obviously has that horn right there aimed at his head. But you can definitely see that, again, it really outsizes Mr. Papo Rex, who is a pretty big figure himself, showing that as all of these Wave 3 figures have been, this is another very big Ceratopsian figure. And being another of the Beasts of the Mesozoic figures here, but on a smaller size range, we have the Zuniceratops in comparison to the Albertaceratops, and the Zuniceratops, I believe, is the smallest of the Ceratopsian series, so you can really see how big of a size difference we have between the smallest figure and one of the largest. Not definitely the largest, there's no way it's the largest, and to show you that, there is the adult Triceratops in comparison to our Albertaceratops here. They're kind of having a meeting of the minds right there in the middle. But you can really see that the Triceratops is still quite a bit larger than our Albertaceratops, but the Albertaceratops, regardless, remains a very large Ceratopsian figure. So this Creative Beast Studio Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian Series Wave 3 Albertaceratops is another incredible release, and I'm really happy about this one just because, again, it is so much nicer than I expected it to be. Like, I was so psyched to hear that they were making an Albertaceratops initially, but then I was a little bit like, once I saw the paint job, I'm like, well, it looks okay, but it doesn't look that great. Until actually receiving it here in hand, and I can say that, in my opinion, this is probably the sleeper hit as far as I'm concerned for this entire series, because the paint job is so much nicer and so much more appealing than I expected it to be, and it overall is a great representation of the species. And the fact that it is an Albertaceratops is super cool to me, because I do not have any figures of this species in my collection at all, so instantly it gets some pretty big ups from me being a species I don't have, and that is awesome enough. But once you actually take a look at the figure and you realize just how incredibly highly detailed it is, as all of the Ceratopsians always are, it is incredible to look at. Such a very nice, visually appealing Ceratopsian with a beautiful, very highly detailed sculpt capturing every ounce of detail you would expect to find, and a paint job that is just as equally impressive as the sculpt. Again, with so many different variations of color, so much designing, and really subtle paint application, which is one of the things I really like about this one, with like some real light areas of like light greens and some light blues and stuff in the lower parts of the stomachs, and then there's like some darker blues, and you just have, again, blacks and reds and browns and whites and off-whites and grays. There's just tons and tons of color on this ceratopsian. Again, as always, proving the point that ceratopsians can have really flashy color schemes and still look really nice and natural. David Silva has ironed that fact out when it comes to the ceratopsian series, and this right here is a really good example of that. So we officially have only one figure left, that is the Taurosaurus, which would be the next Beasts of the Mesozoic review from me, and then we are done the Ceratopsian series for now until those smaller Ceratopsians release. So if you are interested in this fantastic Alberta Ceratops, make sure you check the link that I will include in the description to take you to the Creative Beast Studio website where you can pick this up right now for yourself. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.